Hi, welcome to Color Speak. I'm J.M. Huxley, Janet Huxley, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show today with these beautiful women inside and out that I have before me. I'm so excited to have them share their stories, their incredible testimonies of the Lord's goodness and the way the Spirit can lead us if we will only allow it. They have recently released a book. It's entitled Anthology One, so there's more to come, of um, a bunch of authors with terrific testimonies, and it's called Resilience. And this book was the mastermind of my friend Missy Maxwell Worton and Donna Bess. And a couple of those that have beautiful stories within the pages are both Karen and Carolyn. And I'm going to have Missy take over from here. I just want to say one thing. Actually, I forgot. I'm wearing my red. Okay, I'm a little enthusiastic because we live in Kansas City here. The rest of these ladies are from Nashville or live in the Nashville area. But last night, the Chiefs won their playoff game, and there's something about a Red Kingdom that is so exciting. So I wore my red in honor of the Chiefs win last night, and I just come from a family that loves football, and every one of our kids is so invested. And we were the ones that were out of town were on the phones with those gathered, and then two of my sons and a son-in-law were actually at the game. So it was fun last night. So I'm excited. It'll be interesting to see actually what Johnny Enlow maybe says on Elijah Streams today, because today is Monday, and that's the day he usually has something to say, but we'll see. Anyway, enough of that. Hi, Missy. I'll
Hey,
to
Janet.
you.
And yes, Johnny always has something to say about the sports. I love the way he takes it and makes it prophetic.
Right.
So that's
It's
perfect. But we're
it's really
happy for
fun.
you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's a good community. It's not my first home. As you know, I'm from San Diego, but Kansas City is a really nice place to live, and it's filled with beautiful people. So
It is.
we get
It is.
excited.
We've got family there, so we agree.
Yay.
Yay. Well, thank you for having us. I mean, we're really excited. I want to tell you how it came about because this was not my puppy to think of. This Miss Donna
Oh,
Bess, as you know, we go to NRB, National Religious Broadcasters, just to meet some of the podcasters, TV shows, radio stations, different things like that to get our message out. And when we came back, she said, I have an idea. I'm like, all right, what is it? She said, what if we can help these ladies by getting them to write one chapter in a book and we could put it out and it can encourage other people? Because, sometimes people have a hard time writing more than one chapter. They just have a hard time getting their book going.
Mhm.
And so she's the one that came up. And so I have to say this. She has taken every single story and she's also an amazing editor. So I have to give her kudos for that because she has taken some of these stories and just revamped them into this beautiful, just beautiful tapestry of a story that but after you read it, you're just like, whoa, okay, that hit me in the heart and I feel change coming. So yeah, so I'm
Wonder how
actually
you did that, Donna, because I know that you have quite a demanding job. Is
mhm.
so the time that took is I can't even comprehend that.
It's the Lord. He redeemed your time. That's all I can say.
Mhm.
And I mean, amazing things would happen. Like I'd feel like, okay, I need to get this done or whatever. And I would work on it when I was at work. And a couple of patients would just not show up for their appointment. And I mean, he just made ways for my time to be expanded. And he always does that. He's very faithful to do that when I need the time.
That's awesome. And I do want to mention that Missy is in charge of um, you have a warrior writers group. So you help women or anyone, I guess, tell their stories, their
Mhm.
testimonies, because our favorite verse, mutually, I know this, is we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, found in Revelations 11, is it? I feel like 10.
21.
Oh,
Oh, hello, 21. Now you got me trying to.
I know. I'm
It's
sitting here
Revelation
thinking,
21:11, maybe I
okay,
12,
maybe that's
11.
where I'm thinking the 11.
Uh,
Right. And I love that. I love that we're in this new place where I think generations in the past, they kind of buried their treasure.
mhm.
And now we're unearthing it for exposure so that we can encourage others. And that's what you're doing.
And well, it's a Jehovah sneaky girl. I'm telling you, I never meant to be a coach or start a group, but when people were coming up to me and saying, I have a story. I have a story. I just don't know where to start. I don't know how to write a book. I would meet them over coffee at first, and I clearly saw I can't keep this up because it takes a whole lot more. So when I had the challenge, I thought that would set the foundations. It led to warrior writers, and I created an offer and brought these ladies in, and they've still been with me, and it's been almost 3 years. And the beauty about writing your story, so sharing your testimony is not just about who you're sharing it to, it's about you. It's about building your faith. It's about when every time you share what God has done for you, or you share things in your life that you didn't see God when they were happening, but looking back now, you can clearly see his hand of protection, his hand of guidance. All of a sudden, your testimony becomes stronger and stronger. And every time you share it, there is just this love frequency and thankfulness frequency that comes out. And that's what's happened to these ladies. They start writing their books, and God starts working in them. When they hit these places in their life where they're like, I don't know if I want to I just got a block to saying this. We're like, why don't you go to inner healing with Miss Carolyn down there? And Carolyn does a inner healing every Thursdays. And we show up and we're just like, all right, let's get rid of this block that we're having and forgive this person that we really didn't know we still had unforgiveness in our heart towards them. So, but writing does that. And so I'm just thankful that I said yes to God, because his yes, when we say yes to his yes, it looks totally different than what we
Yeah.
ever expected. It's that Ephesians 3:20, more than we can ask or hope or imagine. So yeah,
Yeah, sometimes our yes is arduous, but in the end, it's the most beneficial. Mhm.
always,
Yeah.
always.
Well, who wants to tell their story first? It's written, you have, what is it, 14 or 13
We have
stories?
14 ladies who have written their chapter, and we really called it resilience because it is about all sorts of things that they're overcoming, whether it's spiritual belief, their faith, whether it's from losing a son. It is from here to there. But every single story, you're encouraged to have faith and to keep moving in your trials that you're going through at the time. But every single one of them are powerful and bring change just alone. So, but I love Karen's. One of my favorites is Karen. Her story is really impactful because it may challenge people's faith as far as how you want to listen to God and how God shows up in the unusual ways, and how to look for him. So I don't know. I think Karen would be a fun one to listen to.
I agree. I love your story, Karen.
You. Thank you. And we don't really always love our story when we're going through it, right? But on the other side of that, writing it has been such a beautiful thing that God has done in my life. And what He has revealed to me is how much He loves me. And so my chapter is called Awakening Faith, and it's about how God revealed to me when I turned 50, which was a huge turning point. He revealed to me in a vision that I was an unbelieving believer, and I saw myself at a crossroads, and I began to ask myself a bunch of questions that were pretty pertinent, and just realizing, Lord, what is my legacy, and what am I created to do? Is there more to this life than I had been living? And really, who is God to me? And that revelation that I really didn't know him really scared me. And so I felt like this chapter was so important, just because that I had walked that my whole life, believing that I was identifying as a Christian, basically, and not really having the relationship with the Lord, going to church and doing all the things. And I really looked like a lot of, to be honest, I look like the world. And he just showed me through that vision that it was the desert that was the relationship I had with him, which was dead.
Mhm. Well, then and I love that because I think that's such a poignant stopping point for most people. I think we've all been there where we've been assured of our salvation, so we're feeling pretty comfortable and we go about our day and then we realize, no, I'm missing that intimacy. I'm craving something deeper. And the Lord will convict us, which is terrific. And then if you don't mind, will you just share briefly what happened when you got involved with volunteering your time and then you show up? Because I really pictured myself in this situation where I was asked to get out and do something like that, and you just feel like, oh, should I do this? I'm, like kind of out of my comfort zone. And what I loved about your story is the way the Holy Spirit just took over for you and led you.
Yeah. It's amazing how, when I look back on that, how he had already set up situations for me to succeed, for me to know purpose, for me to not have fear, for all the things like how my story is not just about an event, but what it did was open up my heart to allow him to love me, which shattered the fear, which allowed the faith to grow. And through something just really, really cool was I don't know if I want to reveal too much of it because I want people to read it, but um, we were going to go deliver some Thanksgiving bags, and I didn't know where we were going to go. We didn't have a map, and the pastor said that we were just going to let the Spirit lead, and that just went over my head. Lead where? Like what does that even mean? And I asked someone else who was his wife, who's my really good friend. And I just kind of leaned in and I said, where are we going? And she said, we'll let the Spirit lead. And we began to pray for the Lord to lead us. And there was a bunch of small groups that were going to go out. And our small group had about 10 to 12. And she just said, close your eyes and think of a house. And okay, so I thought of a red brick house with a porch, and she thought of a blue house. And we prayed, and I thought, well, this is really strange. And then they asked me to be the leader of the caravan. And I'm thinking, I had so much doubt. So it's like I was being pushed out of the nest, basically. Just go, just go. Like God's going to lead you. And so me behind the wheel and not knowing, do I go left or right? Or like, where do I go to find this house? And we didn't get very far. And then someone and me both, we saw this house, and I'm still in a cycle of doubt. And so I'm thinking, oh, that's not the house I saw. And she said it. We ended up pulling over. And through that, God revealed something so cool that, it really just boils down to just stepping out in faith. And what one thing that we've done before too is it's like a scavenger hunt with God, that he's going to show you things in your mind. He will download something to you, and you can say, okay, Lord, help me find that. Or if you're going to go speak to somebody, or go tell them about the Lord, or go pray with them, he may have you find somebody with purple shoes on. I mean, it's just how God works. He's just really, really cool. And that day he blew my mind, and what he did. And I don't know how much you want me to reveal, but that's
I just think it's so cool that, I have people asking all the time, well, how do you know, or how do you start the process? And what you're telling us is it just starts with a knowing and a trusting. And then hearing a voice say, or an image in your head look like a red house, or hearing a voice say, turn this way. And we tend to doubt ourselves. But when we remember it's not about us, it's about our connection with Holy Spirit. Therefore, we can trust that, and we can then take baby steps. And the more that you move out in that direction, the more that you see those things. And I won't ruin it for anyone, but the scavenger hunt was really cool. And the way that he led you to where you were supposed to be, it was just brilliant on his part. And I loved that your heart was open to doing that. It was just a really feel good story that was so empowering, I think, for people to read.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it touched your heart.
It did.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to you, Missy, and let you orchestrate your
Oh
group.
my goodness. I can do that. Well, I think, with all of this came about because Donna had a vision. And I would love, for her to share, because one of the things God did with her, and it was one of his ways to let me know that I was on the right track, is even though in my story I was told early on, because the enemy always comes against your gifting that you're supposed to release in,
Yep.
was told not to write. I was literally told not to write, and I had to overcome that. So when it came to coaching someone to write, I had to overcome that, because if a teacher tells you you can't write and then you write, and yeah, I did well with the book, and then but then you're helping other people. I immediately was like, Father, show me, and that I can teach to the place where people hear what I'm saying and can message can put their book into action, their testimony into action, and it come out in such a way that it's honored, like with awards. And Donna has already received, like, you've received one definite, and then the other one was definitely in the top two as well. So just seeing her be honored for writing such an incredible book, it was God's nod to say, keep teaching them, because they're going to do even better than you did. And that is Donna. Donna is just, she continues um, to just excel in her writing. So I'm going to let her talk about her chapter, because again, it's a powerful chapter.
Well, thank you, Missy. I'm humbled. My chapter, it was funny because I hadn't written my chapter when I was collecting all the chapters from everybody. And I was like, well, all of my really wow stories are already in my book. So what am I going to write now? Excuse me. And so, anyways, I was just praying about it. And the idea that I got, I was like, well, should I write this? Well, it's about my daughter who is, I think she's 38 now. And so I had to get permission from her. And there was some back and forth going. And she's like, no, I don't want that in there. And I was like, I just think it's really important. I think it's really important. I just really want you to pray about it. So I wrote kind of a rough draft and sent it to her. And she did approve it finally, thank God. But excuse me, knee-jerk water.
Well, and while you're doing that, I'll just say that that's one of the things I loved about it, because I do have your book. It's on my bookshelf somewhere back there, but reading your story in this newest one was great, because it was more than you and I have talked. You've been on the show, so I knew a lot, but I didn't know this part of it. And I loved it because it resonates with all of us as parents. My own stories, and I think, oh man, that would have been hard. Anyway, so go ahead.
Well, when I wrote the book, I left my children out mostly
Mhm.
because, kids, they a lot of times don't want all their stuff in a book, right? So that's why I was really not sure about it. But I just felt like it was such a powerful story because it's probably the one that took me to my knees the greatest. And basically, my 18-year-old daughter, who was always pretty confident, at least I thought, and pretty self-willed, called me one day when I was at work and said, well, I bought my ticket. I was like, you did? To where? And so she announced that she was going to Central America by herself with no friends, no connections,
Yeah.
to a place that she found on the internet. Now, I don't know about the rest of you guys. That sent an earthquake into my heart. And I was like, where did you hear about this place? I found it on the internet. Nobody told you about it. You just like Google searched it, found it. I don't know if that was what it was back then, but AOL, whatever it was, I don't know. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, and what kind of place is it? And every bell and whistle in my soul was going off. I was like, first off, Central America was very high for sex trafficking back then. And I didn't say anything to her because I'm like, okay, I don't want to stir fear in her heart if this is, really going to happen. And I went back and forth, and really, I went to years before I had found my place at the altar of the Lord at the foot of my bed, where I would lay my children before him. And it was like a purposeful thing that I would do whenever I just became completely overwhelmed. I went back to that place and I felt assurance. This is going to be okay. I did not stop praying that something would make her change her mind to not go through with this, but she did not. And so I was like, okay, it's going to be okay. And, she did go, and it initially wasn't okay. It initially was terrible and frightening, but I knew that I knew that, you know, the God who had saved my children from other very devastating situations, that he would do it again. And so I just kept, purposing to keep my faith fixed on that idea that she is safe in his care, even though she's a million miles away from me and there's nothing I can do to rescue her from the situation. But he has her. She is safe in his care. So I would rehearse this when I was feeling this anxiety and stuff. And I mean, the place that she was staying, I'm not sure what kind of place it was, but everything about my spirit was screaming that it was a terrible place to be. And but the weirdest thing is that, God in his crazy ways, he just decided to send them to go drop her off on a curb in the middle of no place. And of course, I'm like, are you kidding me? But it ended up being the very thing, we never know. It reminds me of something Missy says fairly often. Don't question the way that God brings your children to me. Don't question the way that I bring your children to me, was what God says. So I mean, I didn't have that thought back then, but that was kind of the place that I was in. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to trust this is really you. And it ended up being a beautiful story of her life moving forward. And it was a picture of just self-discovery. I discovered much about myself. She discovered much about herself. And it ended up being such a beautiful story that was really a bonding, even as we were working on it when I was writing it. It was even a bonding experience as we wrote on it, because there's perspectives about that season that I did not know. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, why did you do that? And because and it was a learning experience for me too, because I think as parents, a lot of times we think we know what's happening, and we just address what we believe to be happening. Like I thought I knew what was happening there. And so I would just address, I'm like, this is not the way that it is, and blah, blah, blah. But then after the fact, as I was trying to write this, she's like, that's not what happened at all. She's like, I felt terrible about myself. And I thought, well, I can't be book smart, so I can be mission smart, and I'll go do that. So she was making a decision to do it because she felt like she was less than, and she was comparing herself to her brother. Which, comparison's a trap for all of us. So, so it was such a beautiful time for self-discovery. And she had an opportunity to reflect back on the time. Just ended up being a beautiful experience. My hope for this chapter is that people understand that there's things that they can do to elevate their parenting as an adult parent, parent of adult children, because they're hard. They're really hard.
Yeah, you don't realize that in the beginning. You think you're going to raise them to 18 and they're going to be on their merry way and your cares are going to subside, and that's when they're elevated.
Yes.
The ratchets. I can't even tell you the number of nights that I would sit watching Life 360 and waiting and waiting and waiting for kids to get home and not able to sleep. And because I don't have permission, I'll just tell you this. I think some of you know this story. I called the police on one of my kids once. I sent the police right over to where I saw Life 360 because she wasn't responding and she was at a lake at night. So that was not fun. Was not fun. She, what a relief when I get a text. Mom, you called the police? And I thought, oh, I can relax now. But yeah, I get it. I get it.
It's so funny because like you, Janet, you think that at 18, they're going to go off and it's just going to be like, okay, now I don't have to worry about this. They're driving, they've made it to 18. It's all going to be okay. But then they make these crazy decisions and you're like, do they not see the crazy of this? Do they not understand that this is going to be the worst decision ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh gosh.
It brings you to a new place of surrender, because in this place, it's like, this is my child whom you love more than I ever could. Mm-hmm. You care about their destiny more than I ever will.
Right.
You want the best things more for them than I ever even begin to understand what that is. Mm-hmm. And I am going to trust you with this. And so to continue to just put yourself in that place when everything is screaming it's bad. Mm-hmm. It's a new level of surrender.
Mm-hmm. It really is. I just want to say, I do have kudos to Jenna for enduring the bugs because the bug part of it was what a lot. Hmm. So
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
I have to say that is you have to read
Just
the
what
story
I
again.
said to
But
it.
no, thank
I'd
you.
have been
No, thank
laying
you.
there
No, thank
thinking,
you.
how quickly can I get on a plane?
Mm-mm. Nope.
Yeah, she is a different breed of a kid. She just really is. But she goes after life now, and she just loves Jesus with her whole heart. And they're raising their kids to do the same, and she goes after life. So
That's great.
she's a beautiful kid. But yeah, there were those seasons where I thought if she could just make it to 25, I'm thinking I've
Yeah,
accomplished something.
get it. Oh, believe me, I get it.
Yeah.
With eight over here, the odds increase exponentially of my trouble, my woe. Yeah, for sure. They're all great.
Yes, they do. And their joy, and your joy. Just think, you have 8 times the joy.
Yes, yes, for sure. They're
It's like,
actually
yes,
awesome adults, but yeah, for sure.
that is,
When they hit their 30s, they become really great people.
Yeah, it really is an
They
interesting.
offer you a lot less stress by that time.
Yeah.
It's just like getting them to that. That's
Uh-huh.
and you
at least
start
that's
hearing,
my experience. So
and you start hearing those words, Mom, I think you actually might have been right.
yeah.
And
I
you're
heard
like,
both of my daughters tell the other daughter, Mom's always right. Mom's
yeah.
always right. And I thought, oh, I hear the Hallelujah chorus singing. This is amazing. I feel so vindicated.
The heavens have
Yeah.
opened.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. It's very true. But
Yeah.
anyways, as far as the book goes, I feel like it's a very widespread amount of stories covering very different topics. And I feel like it'll be a blessing to anybody who picks it up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
And there's different lessons, not necessarily lessons. There's different aha moments in every chapter that
Mm-hmm.
you learn something new about yourself as you're reading another
Mm-hmm.
person's testimony. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really good. Would I have
Mm-hmm.
done that?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
just,
Well, and I have to say, when I know, because we'll transition, I know to Carolyn, but I have to say, my daughter Emily knows both Missy and Carolyn very well and loves you both so much, like, just so much off the
love her.
charts. And she always, when I told her that the title of Carolyn's story in the chapter, she just loved it. I mean, she just said, oh my gosh, I love Carolyn. She's so pure. That's what she always says. I just love, and I hear her tell the other kids, I just love Carolyn so much. And she's said that about you for years too, Missy. So anyway, I just want to transition into that story with the title because I don't know. I just don't know that people could actually get a handle on exactly who Carolyn is just from this, but this is just a little snippet of who she is. She's amazing. You're amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, my title is When God Speaks to You Through a Hairdryer. And so
Sure.
I know it's kind of a simple little metaphor, but I know it's kind of crazy. But the Lord speaks to me in many different ways. And when he spoke to me through that little metaphor, it really became a catalyst to change in my life and also to other people's lives. And so, yeah, do you want me to tell some of the story?
Well, sure.
Okay.
Tell what
I didn't
you
know how.
Yeah, tell what you feel like you want to tell.
Yeah, I was kind of like Karen. I didn't want to tell the whole thing because I wanted
Yeah,
to read it. But
sure.
so basically, I've gone after inner healing for many years, and like many years, and I had a lot of brokenness growing up in my family background, and so I was with my daughter, and she had this hair dryer that she was using, and I was like, I can't dry my hair out of this. The back of it was so, kind of gross. Like I thought it was hairspray and dust and all that. And if you turn the hair dryer on, it's not working. There's obviously no hot air coming out of it. So Holy Spirit spoke to me. He said, "Hey, why don't you?" I was scratching it off, and he's, "Why don't you rinse that off and under some water?" And it'll clean it out and then your hair will dry. And then he told me to remember it. Well, the following week, I was at an inner healing roundtable in Nashville, actually. And the Lord just he used the speaker to just come and pray for me. And when he did, I came into an encounter with the Lord that I'd actually never had before. And I could hardly stand up. So I went and sat in my chair, and the Holy Spirit began to speak to me and said, Carolyn, the reason you're at this inner healing roundtable is because I'm cleaning your heart out. And he said, your gifts will flow through your heart in a greater, more pure way when you go after your inner heart healing. And he said, it's just like the hair dryer. He said, when it's all crudted up with all that stuff, air can't flow through it. So you have to clean it. And so that became one of my desires, just it really just emphasized the importance of that. And so, and then it ended up being where it opened a door to creativity that I even had no idea that I had. And I had dismissed myself. It's kind of like one of them said, maybe it was Missy, that, that she couldn't write because she was told she couldn't write. Well, I couldn't draw a stick figure. And so, I mean, seriously, it was unreal. And so through some invitations from the Father, he told me, he said, you've gone after your generational curses for so long. Now I have blessings for you. And why don't you go after that? So he just opened a door to that area of my life. And my grandmothers were artists, and they traveled around the world. One of them taught art, anyway. And so it was kind of interesting because one of them, the one that taught the art, she would paint on bags. I can remember this bag she painted strawberries on it. And then I'd started painting on clothing, like my jackets and my pants. And it hit me. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even remember that. But my grandmother, you did that too. So now I do prophetic art at our church, and it's been amazing. So yeah, there it is.
Okay, so so much to unpack, but let's talk about what's behind you. Would you share what's behind you?
Yeah, so I've been studying the Hebrew living letters, and out of John it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. Well, he's the Word, and words are made with letters, and so he's living. And so I I was asking the Lord, I'm learning the different letters. So I all of a sudden I just saw these letters coming out of a portal. And so this is actually a portal, and these are living letters. So yeah, I'm finished with it now. I've got to frame it. I just got a thing for it to frame. But yeah, but
So
I
one
had
thing, I just realized I have this on my desk.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got Janet a set too, Missy, for her
Yeah.
birthday.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
that's
these.
awesome.
The living letters, it's called Letters for Light. I love it. That's the first letter of the alphabet. I think you painted that one too, didn't you? But
I
if you
did.
come up close,
Yeah, I did in
when
the
you
other room.
see it up close, those are all the letters coming out of the portal that
Yeah,
she's painted. And
right.
it's just beautiful, and it's full of these gorgeous, almost not even rainbow colors. It's just so colorful. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I kept seeing the metallics too. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's so cool how God is faithful. He put this friend of mine into my life now. I play flute, classically trained flute. And so I was at this soaking group, and this girl is there with her husband. And the Lord said to me, he said, you're going to be good friends with her. And I looked at her and I told her, it's just popping out of my mouth, you're going to be good friends. And I'm like, really? And so what's crazy is this was down in Brentwood. Well, we don't live in Brentwood. We live north of Nashville. And sure enough, she ends up living like really close to me. And I saw her twice in Publix right after that. And so the Lord connected us, and she's an artist, like an incredible artist. And so God has just, I got kind of frustrated with the Lord. So if I had this, why didn't you let me have lessons when I was a kid? And he's like, because my glory is being shown more through you now, because I'm showing you. And then has used Lisa. So I finished the top of the letters because I don't know a lot about shading. And I mean, she's been doing it for 30 years, so she can see it, and I'm having to learn to see it. So anyway, she helped me kind of tweak my letters so they pop. So yeah,
It's beautiful.
thank you.
Okay, Missy, tell us about your chapter. I think you already did start to speak on it a little bit, your yes.
Well, my chapter is called Your Yes is a Big Deal. And it comes from and basically I want to talk to those that would be watching this and they think that they can't paint. They think that they can't write. They think that they can't go and talk to others about Jesus. And I think what happens is the enemy works through fear. He always does. He puts us down. He makes us feel rejected. Whatever he can do to keep us from going after where we're going to have the greatest impact. And what happened in my life is I loved writing. I loved creating. I would sit for hours and just dream of a full movie, just full movie. And when I went to school, I handed in a paper that I thought it was the most amazing, story ever. I thought for sure I'd get my teacher talking for hours, about how good Missy is. And that didn't happen. She handed me a D, and the whole class heard it. And I thought, what? But the sad thing is she said, "Oh, Missy, your grammar is atrocious. I hope you never become, basically, I hope you never decide to become a writer because your
Terrible.
your grammar is atrocious." Now, let me redeem that teacher because she bought my book.
Oh, nice.
And at that time, it had won about 3 awards and they were on there.
Love
And
it.
she said, I can't get out of my mind that I used to think you were a bad writer because your grammar wasn't that good. And she said, but I read your book and the story was what grabbed my attention and God really worked through it. So you are an anointed writer, and I apologize for saying that. And I said, well, it had me stuck for a little bit.
I'm
But
glad
when
that you could
God,
be honest with her because those words we just we can't
you
underestimate the
don't
power of our
realize.
words, and I'm glad you
Uh-uh.
took ownership for that.
Right. And grammar has never been in my wheelhouse. It's getting better. But I was raised with, mom that she didn't have that kind of grammar. I was raised in New Mexico. So most of my friends, they would talk like this, so I
I
got a
love
lot
it.
of talk like that.
That's where I was
So
raised too. I
yeah,
know.
and I loved it. I loved them. I love the accent. But when we had our from my first book, the Don't Mess with This Mama, when that happened, I had already been writing for about 30 years, screenplays and film screenplays, TV shows. That's what I turned my attention to,
Mhm.
because you didn't have to write flowingly. You just wrote scene, you wrote what was said, just you still had to be good, but you just had to get it out. And so when my good friend Howie Klasner came to me, y'all would have seen most of his movies. He said, "I want you to write the book. I'll write your screenplay." And I'm like, "I'll write my screenplay." And he's like, "No, I'll write your screenplay. You write the book." And I said, "But you don't understand. I was told I can't write a book because, my grammar is atrocious." I did not forget that word, atrocious. And he said, "Missy, that is what editors are for." Thank you, people like Donna, who know how to edit. And the beauty is when that broke free in me, and I just started writing, knowing that somebody else would clean up the grammar and the spelling, that I was free to just create. And that's what God released in me. And so it's getting over the things that the enemy says you can't do. Watch out, because most likely you were created to do it. And you were created not only to do it, but then God have given you such an incredible gift within that in communicating, that your book, your stories, your communication would go out there with a different frequency on them of life and
Yeah.
of giving. And that's what the enemy does not want released on this planet. He does not want creativity released
Right.
on this planet because guess what? He knows the creator.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that creator is powerful, and he knows how to create things that will bring transformation and change. So when God put me on this journey, I also thought I didn't want to be a coach, and I avoided it. But when I fell on my face and said, "Okay, God, if I'm supposed to start this group and coach, then you're going to have to go before me. And there were tears. There was not just the, oh, okay. No, I bargained with him. I was like, okay, if you asked me to do this, I wasn't going to go down easy. And he knew it. But finally, when I pulled myself up from the floor and wiped my face off from all the tears, I knew I was moving forward. I knew I was going to help because my whole desire was to help others release their message. And my past had showed all these prophets had spoken over me that said, you will take something that looks, no one will have seen the jewel in it, and you will brush off the mud and the what is on it, and you will shine it, and you will bring it into a sparkling jewel, a diamond, and they will be a light in the darkness. And I was like, oh, that must mean I'm going to sing to them, I'm going to act. No, it was about their stories. It was about taking their story, which they thought was a mess. And everybody knows, and I didn't coin this phrase, but your message comes out of your mess. And that is where you're redeemed, is when you're a mess, you're a hot mess, and God goes, I can use that. And he just starts revealing the beauty and the creation that is you and what you were always meant to be. Listen, there is not one thing in our life that he can't use for his glory. There's not one thing. Not one. I don't care if you've had an abortion. He can use that because he redeemed you. He redeemed the guilt, the shame, and he now is helping you to fight for those babies. Everything, anything you've done, a divorce. God can use that. How many people feel like a failure because they've divorced? No, God says, I can use that. And so your story can be used. And that's why I continue to love on these ladies. And it's women that I absolutely adore. They're my sisters now in Christ. And just watching them be released to speak, to release their books, their magazine articles, all these things, and now step into leadership roles. I mean, that is more fulfilling than anything else I can imagine. More fulfilling than me releasing my book. That is how more, I mean, I thought I had tapped the end of the world there when I released my book and it started doing well, but didn't come close to how I feel. It's like my mama comes out in me and I'm like, that's my girl. That's my girl. But that is my story. It's how important is your yes. And sometimes God has to fight for our yes because we don't, it doesn't line up to our checklist of what we thought we wanted to do in life. But just give it a chance. I just want to encourage you to give it a chance. Do what God has asked you to do for 1 year and see if it wasn't something that will turn your life around to where you sense a sense of purpose and you suddenly see what God created you for.
I agree. And I think you have to be willing to step out. So if he says, quit your job and you don't have anything else lined up, quit your job. I mean, you stepping out in faith means if God doesn't catch you, you're really going to be in trouble. But you have to believe, that he's leading you that way. And I'm speaking to people who maybe they had no idea, like you had no idea because your background's in acting or singing and performing, what it would look like. I feel like so many times he asks us to do things that aren't even in our periphery. I mean, or maybe in our periphery, but that's not our focus. And I feel the same way. And then when you end up doing it, like this podcast, this is not what I thought. And Carolyn, my prophetic friend over here, kept saying, be the thing you're looking for, be the thing you're looking for. And I thought, oh, that's a literary agent. Oh, that's, all the things, my background in journalism. And then I realized, no, the thing I'm looking for is I love taking inspiration from stories and from people who share and who speak truth, and so that's what's so exciting. And then just to speak into who you are, Missy, I don't know. I was thinking, gosh, how long have we known each other? Since 2019, right?
A long time.
Yeah. So I feel like never, ever in the time that I've known you have you ever been downtrodden, no matter the circumstances? You always have the best attitude, the most incredibly radiant countenance. I think you're the perfect person to encourage people. And what a blessing it is for people to know you and to have you in their lives as their cheerleader and their champion. And you are absolutely a treasure. Absolutely.
Oh,
And
oh,
the rest of you are as well. I mean, and I'm so honored to know you all and to know your stories. And just getting to know you, Karen, I just was so touched by what you had to say and your willingness to, it's not even about self. Everything about you, I sense, is about helping others. And I love that. So, yeah,
May
anything
I say something?
else?
I wanted to bring the attention back to Missy for a second. When I started writing, I had never written anything. Well, I've written papers for school, but never like I was a very half-hearted journaler. You know what I mean? And I didn't think I could write a book, but I knew God told me I was supposed to. So when I sat down to do that, I sat for 3 months with a laptop in front of me going like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to do. I mean, like write a book, like who does that? Like I don't know anybody who does that. And when I started in Missy's class, I mean, simple directions were like, oh, would turn light bulbs on for me, And the next 18 months was a journey of inner healing for me and getting my story out. And I say all that to say, of all the people in this anthology, aside from myself, Missy, and one other lady, all of them are brand new authors,
mhm.
brand new authors. And I feel like they've done a splendid job of producing beautiful stories. And I feel like that it'll touch anybody. But more than that, I want people to see what's possible when you say yes. I mean, the rest are not, they've never written it, they're not published anywhere. Now they are, but they're brand new and they've written beautiful stories because they have learned. And Missy has a actual free challenge coming up at the end of this week.
Oh,
Just promoting that.
And I'm
Thursday,
happy
Friday.
to promote that. Actually, I am because I believe in Missy and I believe in what she's doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sign
So
up.
Yeah.
do you want to talk about it?
Oh, the challenge?
Yeah, yeah.
It's something that I give the foundations of writing a good story because a lot of people just think you do grocery list and that's the furthest thing from telling a good story. Just really giving them those things that they need to tap into to get started. And it's on Thursday and Friday. They can go to my website, MissyMaxwellWorton.com, and then they will see something that says a sign up, and I'll get that sign up and give them the Zoom link for this Thursday and Friday or whenever the next one is. I don't know when they'll be seeing this, so. But yeah, it's 2 hours Thursday, 2 hours Friday.
That's amazing. Wow, that's great.
And
And
it's a jewel too, because it really is everything foundationally that you need to actually put words on a page.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who've been contemplating for a long time. I know I have
Mhm.
something in me and I want to be able to share it, but I
Mhm.
don't know how to get off the block. I don't know
Mhm.
what the first step is. So Missy can absolutely help you with that.
Absolutely. Would love
Absolutely.
to.
Yes. And then Karen and Carolyn both have books in the works.
Mhm.
So it's exciting.
It's
Yes,
exciting.
their books are in the works and they're already published authors.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I love that. Yay.
And if you think
Yeah.
about this,
Okay.
scribes, it changed the culture
Mhm.
of a city, of a country. It was what was written that started changing the culture
Mhm.
in time. So it's exciting to be an author. That means you're a world changer.
I love it.
Mhm.
I love it so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, ladies, it's just been a pleasure having you today. Does anybody want to say anything further before we close out?
I just want to thank you for having us all on here.
Oh gosh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. Well, as soon as I got the book, I phoned Missy. I said, "Yeah, I think we need to have some people on." So maybe this is okay. So like this is anthology one. Maybe this is anthology one. I feel like there's a lot of really great stories in there, and um, yeah, very
Well,
fun.
we're already working on Anthology 2. It is almost ready to upload. So it'll be within a few months that we'll have Anthology 2.
That's awesome. I wish I worked as quickly as all of you, but plodding along over here.
Donna, or is she up above me? I don't know where she is on the screen.
I know for me, she's up there. I feel like it's Hollywood Squares. I'm looking. all over the place.
Yeah,
I
she's
didn't
up
hear, I just
there.
wanted to give Karen one more chance to speak because you had such an important message and then we all kind of took off. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Karen?
I just want to say that, just if you feel that you're in a place where you may be afraid to step out, just praying. I had began to ask God what my purpose is. I had no idea, and it's not your job, although we all have to work. And it wasn't that. It was, what did you create me to do? And that's really what opened the doors for me. And they just continued to open because God is always pursuing us. He's always wooing us. He's waiting on us to respond to him so that he can partner with us. And through my story, what he has opened up through just that one day. I mean, there was so much more after that, but just what he's opened up to reveal to me, who he created me to be. And, if we're walking with the Lord, it is to tell other people about who he is, to love them, love God, and love ourselves. And through that process, he's teaching me, how to do that, how to cultivate this relationship with him. And, my next 50 years, which that when I turned 50, that was a while ago, but those next 50 years are going to look completely different than what my first 50 years look like, because they're with him. And, it doesn't mean it's a bed of roses. It doesn't mean that, we don't go through mountains and valleys, but, what he taught me was how to pray through that, how to use his word. And he's just taught me so much. So it was just it changes your walk, it changes your heart. And that's what God's after. He's just after our heart. He's not looking at what we've done or what we were in the past. He's looking for our heart. And he just wants to reveal that. And in whatever way. And me being an author it's not who he created me to be, but he gave me that talent so that I can just share his love through story and through words. So for that, and I thank you, Janet. I thank you so much for having me. What an honor and a privilege to be able to speak to a story, a God story, and to be here with these ladies. And Missy she's a jewel. Everybody here is a jewel. I love these ladies so much. We've walked this journey for almost 3 years, and they're family. And yeah, we've all grown so much. So anyway, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
The
Thank you,
pleasure was
Janet.
all mine, and I have to say, I'm not part of the Warrior Writers group.
We wish
But
you were.
I
Yeah.
know, right? I know, but I have gotten to talk with you all occasionally, and I agree. I feel like it's a family, and I think that's the beautiful thing about the season that we're in is that the Lord has just really brought his people together through this internet thing and through social media. And it's wild, isn't it? But it's so cool because I've actually met some of my best friends this way. So
Yay.
it's exciting.
Can I share something real quick before we get off?
Of course.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing basically Karen was saying. This morning I was thinking, I used to believe, now I may be the only one, is that you grow up, you go to school, you get a degree, you get and in those years you take piano lessons and ballet and art and all those things. And I guess I thought that there was a ceiling as to when you could step into a new era of your life. I don't know. And the Lord was saying, Carolyn, you never stop. There's always a chance to open a door to something else that you want to do. And I feel like we're in a season in time where God is releasing beauty through creativity. And I mean, and it brings joy, it brings love, it brings connection. There's no limit as to what it brings. And I just feel like anybody who's listening or watching, if there's something that you've ever wanted to do and it's been deep down in your heart, God is giving you permission to go for it. He's giving you permission to say yes. That's what's interesting about this book because Missy starts with a yes and I end with the yes because mine is the last chapter. And it will change your life. And it won't just change your life. It'll literally change your family's life and those in your sphere, and it's going to change the world. So, the Lord wants you to know you have permission to, and then go back to generations. Is there something in the generation behind you that, oh, my grandmother was, a opera singer or whatever, whether actually my aunts were, and not that I really want to sing opera, but, there was a lot of music in our background. My aunts were on Broadway. There was a lot of things there. And if you've got something that you're desiring, go back and think, hey, what is part of my inheritance? Because, it's not just the curses. We can take care of that in Jesus' name and get rid of those. But what about the blessings that we can tap into? So anyway, I just feel like people need permission to know have stepped into a new era. We have stepped out of the church age into the kingdom age, and the sky's the limit. We're the only ones who put a lid on it.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I have a master's in journalism, and I got that in 1988. It wasn't until last year that my mom gave me a whole carton full of my grandparents' stuff. And I learned that my grandmother, now I always knew my grandmother she wrote some of Nixon's speeches, but I didn't know that she was a columnist until last year. I didn't know that um, her brother, or no, her uncles were columnists, and even cartoonists. I didn't know. Nobody ever told me that. I didn't even know, frankly, when I got my degree, wasn't even planning on writing. I mean, it was more like it was broadcasting. And then the Lord said, write. And I thought, I'm not a good writer. And it really had to take me out of my box to write something that was nonfiction. And then to write fiction, which I haven't published yet, but I'm about to. Really had to get me out of my box. But that's my point. And this speaks to what Carolyn just said. There may be something that you didn't even realize was part of your blessing, was part of your assignment. And one thing I do want to say is I want to read this first because this speaks to it. There was a guy, I think I've said this before, but his name was Herman Wouk. He was a Jewish guy who wrote the Pulitzer Prize winning novel, um, The Caine Mutiny. But he also wrote Winds of War and that kind of thing. He was amazing. And the reason I think he was amazing is he was still publishing into his 100s.
Wow.
He was still doing his thing. I mean, I feel like he died at 104 or 107 or something, but he was still working. And I always just use him as a great example because, like you said, Carolyn, I feel like the enemy wants to convince us that we have all of these things to accomplish, but as soon as our kids are gone, well, it's time to pull out the rocking chair and make the tea and sit on the front porch. But that's not what the Lord has for us. And so well, I was talking to him one day about it, and especially because this is the first part of my new life. My life completely, my old life was completely severed as if in a huge earthquake. And now at the age of 60, I am completely starting life over. And I believe this. So here's what it is. It says, and this is so cute. I did this years ago where actually have like drawings of this tree. But here's the thing. It says, the righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. They are planted in the house of the Lord. They flourish in the courts of our God. They still bear fruit in old age. They are ever full of sap and green to declare that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. So, people, until your very last breath, even if you're 120 years old, God willing, he has a plan for you and you have a purpose. So
Mhm.
claim your fresh and flourishing existence.
Mhm.
Claim that because that's your birthright. That's yours.
Mhm.
And I think as we move into this beautiful kingdom age where we're more aware of, as you've mentioned a lot of times, and we've talked about on a podcast, Missy, frequencies, what we wear, being careful to, I mean, just ditch the polyester, pull out the cotton, and the linen and the wool. Um, Eat properly, watch those seed oils, understand those things that we've bought into that have poisoned us. I think once we start living a different lifestyle, get the fluoride out of the water. I think the Lord is supporting this, right? I think this new age of ours is an exciting place to be, especially with the Lord and the assurance of his word. So we don't need to buy the enemy's ridiculous lies. We're fresh and flourishing until our old age, through our old age.
We are.
Yay. Amen to that.
Good.
Anyway,
Amen. That's good.
someone needed to hear that. So All right. I love you all so much.
I love you.
Godspeed. Keep doing the good things, the good work, and I'll look forward to that second anthology. So,
It's
and
coming.
we'll try to get as much information in show notes. I am very limited for space sometimes with one of the platforms I use, so I'll condense it down, but I'll make sure I have contact information for all of you up on the show. So, show notes. All right.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, the rest of you, for tuning in today. I hope you found that really helpful. All right. And I also hope your day is full of color. Bye.